Well, I was invited here by my good friend and former colleague in the Congress, Wes Watkins, to give the Wes Watkins lecture. What I plan to talk about are really two things. One is why we as Americans should be promoting a North American integrated economy, Canada, U.S., and Mexico. And then secondly, the politics in the United States these days. Why is it different? How is it different? And what can be done to improve it? I think the major benefit is it puts us in a very strong competitive position, and our future is going to be wrapped up in global trade. We cannot consume everything we're possibly capable of producing. We have to find new markets, and to find new markets we have to be competitive. And what Canada, the U.S., and Mexico combined offer is the perfect mixture of labor force, resources such as energy resources, oil and gas and renewables, and an educated population that is capable of competing anywhere. And if we want to create jobs for the next generation, we've got to look to the world. And when you look to the world, you have to be able to compete with them. Well, it was a very interesting time because I was there for the final negotiations of the North American Free Trade Agreement, and then for the implementation of NAFTA, and then to help have honest elections in 1994. Then there was the peso devaluation, which nearly bankrupted Mexico, and then to work out a rescue package that the United States could come in and help Mexico get out of its issue, out of its bankruptcy. And not only was it successful in preventing a bankruptcy, but within 8 months, Mexico was back on its feet, repaid the entire loan, and we made something like $800 million of interest in that short period of time. So while a lot of people look at foreign aid and say it's bad, there's an awful lot of instances when it's absolutely good for the United States. I think when I was in politics, you have to look to what you can do for the next generation. Can you take what you have found when you took office and made it better for the next generation? And international trade is an absolute necessity to make the lives of Americans better in the next generation. And that plus the satisfaction of learning new cultures and new ideas, and it's just a very satisfying thing to be in. Well, I went to the White House right out of law school when I was 25, and then it was the last year of the Johnson administration, was the President's Chief of Staff, and was out of office when I was 29. So it was a very interesting time. 1968, if you won't recall, but a lot of people will, was really a tremendous year in terms of war and in terms of reforms of our own society, and assassinations with the brutality of politics, the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, for example. And yet we came through all of that, and we're a stronger nation. So it was a very interesting time to be in politics, to be in public service. And I've really found my entire time in public service, whether it's Congress or as ambassador or at the White House, to be very stimulating, very satisfying. I think the biggest change is the meanness and the narrow-mindedness that is in politics today. Back when Wes Watkins and I were in Congress together, or before that when I was at the White House, politicians thought that their job was to try to make things better. And it was not so much moved by ideology. It was moved by how can we improve things? What are the best ideas that Democrats and Republicans alike have? Put them together and try to make a difference. Unfortunately, I think these days politics is more mean-spirited. It is more where a member of Congress wants to defend entirely his ideology than to actually build a better life for all of his people. And so I think that creates paralysis in government, creates a sense that we're not moving anywhere, not going anywhere. And I think that's unfortunate, particularly for a country like the United States that has always looked at challenges and found ways to conquer those challenges. I think there are a lot of reasons. Number one, I think there's money in politics, big money that has an undue influence on politics. I think number two, the way we conduct our elections now, fewer and fewer people vote, and we gerrymander congressional districts in a way that the primary election is the most important thing, and only about 15% of the population vote in primaries. So we have a Congress, to a large extent, that's elected by less than 15% of the population. And this 15% of the ones who are either extremely left or extremely right. And then once they get elected, the congressman or the senator is so afraid of disturbing or making mad that 15% that elected him or her, and that they're intimidated, and so they don't compromise, which is a very good word, which means to me, I'm not infallible. I don't have all knowledge. Somebody else may have some knowledge that is better than mine in certain instances, and we ought to seek out the best ideas. You can't do that, because if you do that and it strays from the ideology, the ideologues will get you at the next election. So as a result, you just have paralysis. The interest of the younger generation in the political decisions that are made is waning considerably, and I think that's unfortunate. And I think the younger generations get older, and I think when they get older, they're going to say, "Gosh, I wish I had been involved," because things are not as good as they should be.